may this be one of the best moments of your life. You're listening to the Business Mirror podcast for a broader look on business with Senior Editor Dennis Estopace.
Good day, I'm Dennis Estopace, and our topic for today is about the impact of the African swine fever on backyard hog raisers. The journalist behind this story is Business Mirror contributor Aladin Jega, with additional report from Business Mirror reporter Jasper Emmanuel Arcalas. For the text version, please go to www.businessmirror.com.ph and search for Backyard Hog Raisers Groups Grapple with Swine Virus Impact with Loans. The story of that title was published in the Broader Look section of the Business Mirror newspaper on January 16, 2020. Let's get on with the story. The outbreak of the African swine fever, or ASF, last year ravaged backyard hog raising. The virus is said to have been weakening alongside the hopes urban livestock raisers can recoup their losses as well as the source of their income. According to a spokesman of the Department of Agriculture, the ASF is showing signs of slowing down, even in the most affected areas. The ASF outbreak is tapering off in Pampanga and Bulacan, and even in Quezon City, and quarantine has been sustained to contain the disease, the official told Business Mirror last Wednesday, more than a week after another reported discovery of ASF-tainted pork in another supermarket in Quezon City. The spokesman asserted, however, that sentinel animals are showing no signs of new symptoms. He emphasized that the government is serious in banning hog raising in all highly urbanized areas in the country, specifically the National Capital Region. And after 6 months when the first confirmed outbreak was reported, the DA official said that right now the assistance is only composed of the 5,000 pesos per head of culled animals and a loan for those qualified. Told of the concerns of affected backyard raisers in Quezon City, that switching to other livelihood is not easy and will take time, the spokesman said that the Department of Agriculture is ready to provide training for alternative small livelihood for affected backyard hog raisers. All the local government unit concerned have to do is to coordinate with the DA. The spokesman said that they are also encouraging urban gardening and that the Department of Agriculture will assist with technical assistance, giving free vegetable seeds for those in the urban areas who are interested in urban gardening. On Sunday, Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte said that about 16.9 million pesos of cash aid was already given by the local government unit, or LGU, to hog raisers. Belmonte added that around 5,824 pigs were culled since the first ASF incident from floating dead pigs was reported in Silangan, a village near the Araneta Commercial Center. The Quezon City LGU extended 3,000 pesos in cash assistance for every pig voluntarily surrendered for culling by backyard hog raisers in infected areas. Belmonte also said the ASF is already contained in her city, with no new positive blood tests reported since November 13. And there were no ASF-related deaths in the past 30 days. Belmonte, however, clarified that the month-long disinfection process continues, and given no new cases, the disinfection process will be completed by the end of 2019. By February, the Quezon City government will prohibit backyard piggeries and poultries in all barangays through an ordinance, according to City Veterinarian Dr. Ana Maria Cabel. Cabel said they had a meeting with all barangay officials and they already know about this proposed ordinance. The physician added that last year, the local government has allowed backyard raisers to sell or dispose of the pigs, those that are not affected, in time for the Christmas season. Mayor Belmonte has instructed the Small Business Development and Promotions Office to assist backyard hog raisers in starting alternative livelihood programs. In a statement, the mayor said that they will endorse these hog raisers to the Small Business Development and Promotions Office for alternative livelihood programs. The feeding of swill or food refuse, locally known as kaning baboy, is also blamed for the spread of ASF virus, as contaminated feed can easily reach many backyard raisers. Norly Garcia, a resident of Payatas, Quezon City, is a long-time backyard hog raiser and had used swills sourced from local restaurants. Garcia said she cooks the swill before feeding it to her pigs. She asserts that uncooked swills affect the flavor of the meat, and that one can identify traces of fishy smell in the uncooked pork meat. Garcia explained the main reason she used swills and augment it to commercial feeds is that the profit is better than using unaugmented commercial feeds. 4 months ago, Garcia sold all of her 5 adult hogs, including a sow, at a much lower price despite the absence of ASF symptoms, for fear of eventual contamination and greater losses. Garcia has since stopped raising hogs and is waiting for the local government of Quezon City to roll out its alternative livelihood program for growers like her. Records from the Philippine Statistics Authority revealed that as of October 1, 2019, the total inventory of swine in the country was estimated at 13.01 million heads. This represents a decrease of 0.9% compared with the previous year's stock of 13.13 million heads. In backyard farms, swine inventory at 8.20 million heads decreased by 1.7% from 2018's count of 8.34 million heads. Stocks in commercial farms at 4.81 million heads have increased by 0.6% from the previous year's level of 4.78 million heads. Among the regions, the Philippine Statistics Authority data revealed Central Luzon recorded the highest swine inventory of 2.21 million heads. Calabar Zone and Western Visayas followed with stocks of 1.57 million heads and 1.27 million heads respectively. The combined stocks of these three regions accounted for 38.8% of the country's total swine inventory. According to Romeo Andres Royandoyan, the convener of Alianza Agricultura, backyard hog raisers are among the poorest of Filipinos. And if the crisis is not resolved immediately, the incidence of poverty will intensify, particularly in provinces where hog raising is a main livestock activity, according to Royandoyan. Militon Montenegro, director of the Agricultural Credit and Policy Council, or ACPC, said that the DA assistance for backyard hog grazers affected by the ASF is 5,000 pesos per head of depopulated swine. Qualified beneficiaries are those with 20 heads or less, but the maximum number that will be paid for is for 10 heads. Montenegro added that the affected farmers should report to the local government about the affected livestock. Afterwards, a team composed of representatives from the barangay, municipal, and provincial government will conduct an assessment and interview the affected grower. Montenegro said that a couple is considered as one unit for the purposes of assistance. Aside from the direct assistance, the affected hog raiser will be eligible for loans from the ACPC. Eligible borrowers are those raising hogs with up to 20 heads, and the borrower can access loan of 3,000 pesos, representing per head of the livestock, up to a maximum of 10 heads, or the equivalent of 30,000 pesos maximum loan. Montenegro told the Business Mirror that the loan can be used for any income-generating project, except hog raising, until the DA issue a clearance. The mode of payment can be varied depending on the nature of the income-generating project. Montenegro said that if the loan is used for building a sari-sari store, the payment can be monthly. If the loan is used for broiler raising, which can be harvested after 45 days, the loan payment can be quarterly, similar with vegetable growing. According to Montenegro, the ACPC could not directly release the loan, hence a conduit is needed. The new Rural Bank of San Leonardo, or NRBSL, was chosen as one of the conduit banks by the ACPC to distribute the loan facility to eligible borrowers. The NRBSL has recently identified 2,500 borrowers from Pampanga, Bulacan, and Nueva Ecija. Other banks that also serve as conduits include the Land Bank of the Philippines. In the case of the NRBSL, the Rural Bank is already a conduit bank of the ACPC since 2017. NRBSL received 50 million pesos that time for broiler raisers who were affected by the avian influenza outbreak. According to Lisa Ison, NRBSL Vice President for Branches Department, the ACPC allowed them to use and extend the unused portion of the avian flu fund for the ASF onslaught. Ison said they were already preparing for the liquidation of the fund, but the ACPC allowed the bank to start processing eligible borrowers in ASF-affected areas. A separate 60 million pesos allocation for the bank's ASF loan portfolio is being readied by the ACPC, according to Ison. Ison said the bank has a total of 80 million credit line ready for ASF-related loans. As of December 13, Ison said the NRBSL has 60 million pesos worth of loans approved for affected hog raisers in Napalit, Pampanga, and several barangays in Bulacan. Ison said borrowers are capable of paying the loans, considering they are backyard raisers. She told the Business Mirror that borrowers undergo the usual bank process, assessment, review of the plan they are proposing, and modes of payment. According to Montenegro, the ACPC is okay with the arrangement as the bank's internal procedure will prevent a Napoles-type scheme. Montenegro said this is also their advocacy for financial inclusion and is their way of helping the unbanked access the formal channel and give them better alternative from loan sharks. According to Montenegro, the Quezon City local government is preparing a list of backyard hog raisers who may be eligible for assistance and loans. Eason said that the NRBSL will treat the release of loan using the normal credit evaluation policy. Hence, there is a real possibility that some loan applications would not be approved. Montenegro clarified that the ACPC's role is to assist qualified hog raisers affected by ASF to access the fund. Other assistance not in the form of loan should come from the Department of Agriculture. For Royandoyan, hog raising is a literal piggy bank for farmers, as it is their source of income to pay for their children's tuition and other important household expenses. Royandoyan said backyard raisers sell their hogs in times of need and emergencies. It is unlike a sari-sari store wherein you need to earn in small amounts every day, Royandoyan added. He said that the markup can be higher, especially if the backyard raiser is engaged in producing piglets. Hence, according to Royandoyan, indemnity to culled animals should be equal to the farm gate price of hogs, or at least at par with the prevailing price. Royandoyan told the Business Mirror that there is a need for immediate relief to affected backyard hog raisers by indemnification. He said that this calls for a swift but thorough identification of all victims, and that the amount of indemnification should be based on the actual value of pigs culled, and not a uniformed amount. The indemnification for culled animals at present is at 5,000 pesos per head. Royandoyan said that backyard hog raisers in urban areas and even near urban areas would have more difficulty because they would not be able to go back to hog raising, while other alternative livelihood would be very difficult to pull through because of oversaturation. Backyard hog raisers in Quezon City were selling their hogs to traders between 105 pesos a kilo to 110 pesos a kilo before the ASF struck. A full-grown animal at 85 kilos was being sold between 8,925 pesos and 9,350 pesos. Quezon City is a natural magnet for backyard hog raising, particularly the areas of Commonwealth, Payatas, and Silangan, because of their proximity with Rodriguez Rizal and San Jose del Monte, Bulacan. Rodriguez Rizal and San Jose del Monte, Bulacan are well-known areas for small and commercial-sized piggeries. Backyard raisers from Quezon City source their piglets and swine materials, including boar services and artificial insemination from the nearby provinces. Collectors of food refuse from food establishments segregated by garbage collectors, a raw material for canning baboy or swill, daily ply along these routes of Quezon City. Hog raisers who produce their own piglets have better income, as a newly weaned piglet is usually sold between 2,800 pesos and 3,500 pesos each. Some of the backyard hog raisers in Quezon City have already received payment for their culled animals, but are still waiting for the financial assistance for alternative livelihood promised by the local government. Still, for Royandoyan, the ASF also affected rice farmers. According to Royandoyan, rice farmers are naturally hog raisers because of the darak, the inner covering of rice packed with minerals. It is a known raw material for locally produced feeds for local hogs, he explained. Royandoyan said the ASF crisis is a double whammy for the rice farmers, who are already affected by the steep fall in the prices of their produce because of the rice tariffication law. Royandoyan suggests that affected backyard hog raisers should be given free piglets for them to start all over once the ASF is contained. Royandoyan is calling on the government to draw up a roadmap for the backyard piggery sector. On January 13, 2020, Agriculture Secretary William Dar said the Department of Agriculture will improve measures against the ASF as it validates another reported discovery of ASF-tainted pork in another supermarket in Quezon City. Speaking to reporters on the sidelines of his meeting with pork industry stakeholders, Secretary Dar said they have agreed to strengthen existing guidelines to further control and contain ASF in Luzon. Secretary Dar said DA teams are currently validating another report that ASF-affected pork was being sold in a Quezon City supermarket. Secretary Dar said the DA is seeing to it that the ASF is properly managed, controlled, and contained. Secretary vowed to continue to strengthen existing guidelines to ensure that nothing gets past the Department of Agriculture. However, Secretary Dar did not provide details on the possible changes in the DA's existing guidelines on ASF, saying they are too general to mention now. Secretary Dar disclosed he will talk to Executive Secretary Salvador Medialdea for the possible issuance of an executive order on the government's national ASF zoning plan. The Agriculture Secretary expects the document to be issued by Malacanang before February 1. In a separate interview with reporters, Quezon City Mayor Belmonte said the pork samples that allegedly tested positive for ASF virus were tested by the Bureau of Animal Industry. Mayor Belmonte said that given that, there's more than one supermarket now that has been identified having tainted meat, regardless of the fact that they have National Meat Inspection Service certification. Mayor Belmonte has called for an immediate meeting with supermarkets and the respective meat suppliers to thresh out issues surrounding ASF-tainted pork being sold in retail stores.
Thank you for listening to the Business Mirror podcast. For a broader look on business, follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Business Mirror. Until next time.